We are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second official live stream on this new page. I am Darren Taylor, founder and owner of Presoteric, and today I thought I would cover the next big question that a lot of you have had: is what is the actual model for the scientific method of magic that we are constructing here at Presoteric. So I do have myself some notes to keep myself on track, and there is going to be some stuff going on in the background. So if some noise comes into here from the background, you have my apologies. But let's just jump straight into it. So I've had a few questions from people asking what the system of Presotericism that we have consists of. What is the foundations? What are the principles? What does the system actually have in it? What does it entail? And it's a question that through various different articles that we've released on Presoteric in the notes section, which is where we do most of our blogs, and on the various YouTube videos we've done, I've done my best to at least give the implication and the suggestion of topics that we're going to go into, but I've never actually outlined the system, what it is, and given you guys kind of a foundation of what that system is. So that's what we're going to do here today. So the current Presoteric model, the actual model for the scientific system of magic, consists of two pillars or two aspects: the objective and the subjective. And we're going to touch on what both of those are and why they are important. So let's start with the easiest. Let's start with the objective. The objective aspect of this system consists of the actual processes behind various magical practices. So it goes into the processes of ritual, the processes of manifestation, the process of various different practices, and why they are the way that they are. Now, the reason we say this is objective is because we have theorized, and we are continually proving through our work and our experiments, that they are objective. They are also psychological in nature. So to give you just a brief idea of our objective model for magic, the conscious mind impresses an idea upon the subconscious within a ritual format, and then your subconscious processes that information, unconsciously changes your behavior, which then brings that manifestation to you. It actually creates in your life the environment for that to happen. Not without going into too much detail on this, because I could sit here for 2 hours and talk about this single topic alone. Your subconscious mind is responsible for 82% of what you process. 82 being a rough figure, of course. Obviously, it has varying degrees for different people. But your subconscious mind processes the vast majority of information, stores the vast majority of information. All of your habits, all of your learned behaviors exist within your subconscious mind, as does every single association you have to every single stimuli. And when we intentionally impress upon our subconscious mind with our magical intention, if you will, that processes and it unconsciously changes our behavior in the same way, basic psychology. Don't need to go into too much detail with that. That is our model for magic. That is our model for how magic works. We are constantly testing these theories. Now, obviously, there's a lot of details in between. There's touching on the actual stimuli, there's touching on the variables, there's touching on what a ritual is, but that is the objective psychological process of magic. So the objective deals with processes. It deals with things like, what is a ritual? What is the actual process for magic? What does magic do? How does it work? We're dealing with the why and the how these things work the way that they do. So you're looking at the objective processes from point A to point B. The second aspect is the subjective. And this is a lot harder to nail down. In fact, we released an article yesterday called Magic is a Roll of the Dice, or, well, I'm paraphrasing. And that goes into the subjective element. It's the first piece we've actually released in relation to the subjective. Now, the subjective in this model is chaos theory, or is based largely in chaos theory. For people who don't know what chaos theory is unpredictability and randomness within complex systems. For any of you who have seen Jurassic Park, Ian Malcolm, who is Jeff Goldblum's character, is a chaos theorist, and it's most predominantly in maths, but applies to several different other things. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on what each of these individual things are, just because it would take way too much time, but I want to give you an idea of the actual system. So chaos theory is the subjective element to the entire system. So we're going into all of the stimuli, all of the subjective associations, every single aspect of magic, all the components, all the rituals, all the individual nuances and traditions and symbols and stimuli, all of that is addressed in the subjective. So we have two main aspects of this entire system. The first is psychology and objective science, and the second is chaos theory, which deals with the subjective. Now, how would one begin learning this system? This is something that I have spent essentially my entire life trying to study and answer various questions on, what is reality, what is the universe, what is magic. The best way to get into this system immediately is to start observing science. Look into things like social behavior, social dynamics, social psychology. Look into chaos theory. Look into quantum physics. Most importantly, look into psychology. Psychology is the baseline for this system. It is the first thing that anyone will do in this system. And it goes straight back to Hermeticism. The all is mind. It's not just a fancy statement. It's not just a fancy word to get you thinking about how great your mind is. No, Hermeticism is saying psychology, understand your mind, know thyself. So in this system, psychology is the first thing that you're going to want to look into. That is where we begin every person. For every person who comes into the system, that's where you're going to start. And the first thing you're going to start doing is understanding psychological processes and phenomena. So you're going to touch on things like placebo, idiomotor, pareidolia, psychodrama, even method acting. Understanding these various different phenomena will give you so much understanding on what's happening in your ritual setting. Understanding the experiences you're having, why it's happening in a certain way. When you have that understanding, you can begin to see the cogs in your own mind at work. You can begin to dissect everything that you are experiencing and be able to understand why it works the way that it does. Chaos theory gives us the flexibility within that psychological system to be able to work with things like mythology, different traditions, different symbolism, different stimuli. And so the system is comprised of two things, and this is where most people get their misunderstanding for our system. We are not saying that magic is just psychology and so don't worry about all the stuff. No, we're saying the opposite. We are saying that, yes, these systems are psychological in nature. The processes are all based in psychology. However, all of the subjective mythology, symbolism, stimuli is necessary for those objective systems to operate. So there needs to be a balance. Balance is obviously a very common thing in spirituality. We talk about having balance. We talk about, light and dark needing each other, polarity. All of these things come into this. It's a balance between the objective psychological principles and chaos theory in terms of the subjective stimuli. So none of this is going to devalue your belief in a specific system or your love for a specific mythology. You're working with your own mind, and the subconscious works with images, which is why we relate more to mythologies and storytelling than we do from Uncle Bob down the road. It's much easier to relate with things that are generally more glamorous and cool, which is why so many people in the occult want to live in or want to experience things in this kind of Lord of the Rings setting, because fantasy speaks to our subconscious. And so we're here to bring a balance to that in this system, to not put all of our chips in the pot of the subjective and not put them all in the objective either, but to go straight down the middle. This is what many magicians will refer to as the middle path. This entire system is based on going through the middle, is understanding the science, but utilizing the subjective. So what are the topics that we plan to cover in this system? Well, as I said, we plan to cover many, many different range of scientific understandings, psychology being one of the biggest ones. We do plan to look into things like quantum physics, energetic sciences, as I like to put it. We're going to be looking into sociology, because the social dynamics of these communities do definitely impact a lot of the things that we believe. And I'm not going to drop any more real information on something we're actually planning at the moment, but we are planning something that's going to touch on that very thing. It's going to touch on the social dynamics of our various occult communities. And the reason I'm not going to give it away is because it will affect the actual results that we get doing it. So we're going to wait until release to tell you guys anything about it. So I do apologize for having to keep a lot of that information. We're going to touch on chaos theory. We're going to touch on the actual method of chaos theory in mathematics. And I do not like numbers. I am not a mathematician. I hated maths in school. Still not very good at it to this day, but we're still going to touch on mathematics. We're also going to touch on various different mythologies and archetypes. We're not going to invest too heavily into the subjective. We don't want to really emphasize any specific mythology over another, but we are going to look at it as a whole. We're going to look at the reasons why certain stimuli works. We're going to look at more universal symbolism, shapes, sounds, colors, things like that, and why it is that we have those associations. So why is it that we all gravitate towards this particular thing? Why is it that this particular symbolism is more popular? We want to conduct real experiments, and that's one thing that I encourage every single person to do, is to not just look at information and believe it, but to actually test it for yourself. And I don't mean test it by going into your ritual circle and throwing some stuff about. No. Testing it as in conducting real experiments where you are the observer, not the participant. And that is a very difficult thing for people to do in this community, because they don't often have the resources to create and conduct an actual experiment. We do. We have investors for this company, including the owners ourselves. We have invested a lot of money into this project so that we can conduct physical experiments with real people who don't know they're conducting a social experiment or whatever, looking at things and documenting experiences so that we can look at it on paper without us interfering with the results, without us projecting what we want to believe, and looking at what is actually there. We're planning on coming up with ways that you can objectively look at magic without allowing your beliefs and your emotions to control the result, to be able to objectify, essentially, magic and look at it from that objective standpoint. We plan to cover various different spiritual phenomena, different practices. We plan to dissect a lot of the popular things, a lot of the trendy things, because of the fact that so many people take part in them. So being able to outline our perspective on what's going on, I think will give a lot of people something to think about. What we want to do most of all is to provoke thought. We want to put stuff out there that gets people thinking about the information. Just to give you something that I'm actually working on writing right now, why is it that we believe certain things that we believe? Do we believe them because we have gone through questioning the information and actually understanding it and genuinely saying, yes, I believe this? Or is it to fit in with some social group? Because we all know that trends and popularity, and especially authority figures, have an influence on the things that we believe. Do you believe certain information because someone like E.A. Coetting or Presoteric Xavier or even myself have said it? That's one of the things we plan to touch on. Why is it that we believe the things that we believe? Do you believe it because you have questioned it, or do you believe it just because someone else has said it and so many people follow? So there's a lot of these different things that we're going to touch on, but we are going to touch on specific spiritual practices and various spiritual phenomena. Now, I don't really want to go into too much detail because I don't want to overburden you with too much information. One of the things that I've had to really get down with my own work is that I have the ability to talk about so many different things within a single topic. And the problem is that some people can't absorb that much information that quickly. Often when talking about some of these more complex concepts, I have to talk about 5 other things just to give you the context to understand it. And so I'm going to leave this relatively simple. That is our system, our current system and our current model of scientific magic. And over the course of the next year, That may be evolved. That might change into other things. You might adopt other things into this system. But for now, that is the two main things: objective psychological sciences and chaos theory. That is the two pillars of the Pre-Estoeric system. Now, I do want to make you aware that we do have a live event that is currently completely free for anyone to jump onto, and it starts on the 5th of October, and that is called Presoteric, a modern system of magical practice. And it's a free online event, so you don't have to pay anything at all. You just go onto the page, book your ticket, and you will get a link to the live event. And it's going to be about between 2 and 3 hours. If you're not there at the specific time that it goes on, you can always watch it back. And the event is essentially a presentation, more in detail to this, about what the system is, various different aspects of that system, and how to start getting involved. So we're going to touch on things like how ritual works and how you can create your own rituals. If you're looking for a system that gives you an understanding of how this works, how magic works, and how you can create your own rituals to get the results you want to see based on you, not based on what anyone else thinks works, this is the system for you. This will work perfectly for you. So if you want to find out about this live event, go to gumroad.com/presoteric and you will find it. It's called Presoteric, a modern system of magical practice, and that is completely free. The event is on the 5th of October, so don't miss out. It doesn't cost you anything. It's 2 to 3 hours worth of free content, stuff that I have spent almost my entire life trying to put together. The hardest tapestry in the world is about to be shown. So I look forward to seeing you there. I'm going to leave it here. I wasn't actually intending on doing this live stream today. I'm just doing it out of convenience because I'm out here in the location. So I want to thank you all for joining me. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them into the comment section. I will reply to them as soon as I see them. And I'm probably going to be doing these live streams once or twice a week. So plenty more to come. I look forward to seeing you next time. I hope you have a wonderful day. I am Darren Taylor. This is Presoteric. Stay true and stay awesome. Peace out.